Elora woke to the sky barely lightening along the horizon. Jude's slow breathing sounded next to her. She rolled to check on Tara and Shamir. Grinned when she saw Tara buried in her blanket with only the top of her head peeking out, while Shamir's arms splayed as if she were ready to embrace an Grinned when she saw Tara buried in her blanket with only the top of her head peeking out, while Shamir's arms splayed as if she were ready to embrace an invisible friend. Elora's eyes narrowed. What was that sound? Low, heavy. She froze. Like the sound of a coach on packed dirt. She pulled her blanket around her and stole forward, sneaking along the edge of the balancer's cottage until she could get a view of the road. She squinted and craned her neck until she saw it. A coach, moving up the road like an ant crawling on a log. It could have been going anywhere, but Elora's gut told her it wasn't. It was headed here, to the balancer's cottage. It was coming for them. Elora raced back to the others and shook them awake. Tara groaned and Jude jolted. Shamir rubbed her eyes and blinked. Elora snapped her fingers. Pack up, she hissed. Now! Tara yawned. What? Someone's coming. Whew. That was chapter 8. This will be chapter 9. Oh, all right. So this is my novella of Hidden Blood. All of my audiobooks are on my YouTube channel, so you can check them out. Cindy Gunderson. This one will be coming out very soon. It's a prequel to my series, my fantasy romance series that's coming out. So let's go. Let's do chapter 9. Chapter 9. Elora rolled her mat and blanket with shaking hands, then helped Tara with hers. Jude and Shamir didn't ask any questions as they stuffed their packs. Tara stood and slung an arm over Elora's shoulders, and all four of them crept toward... Oh my gosh. Tara stood and slung an arm over Elora's shoulders, and all four of them crept toward the woods. When they were safely hidden in the trees, Shamir finally spoke. Who is it? Elora shook her head. I don't know. A coach? It should be here any minute. We could walk through the trees, make it down the hill, and disappear in town, Jude suggested. Elora set her pack on the ground and pulled out the dried fruit she'd squirreled away. She offered some to Tara, but her sister shook her head. Tara, you need to eat. I don't feel like eating. Deep shadows hung under her eyes, and Elora wasn't sure if they were there because of the bruising or lack of sleep. She grabbed a handful of fruit and shoved it into her sister's pocket. Maybe you'll feel like eating later. Elora put a dried apricot in her mouth, then cinched her pack and pulled it back over her shoulders. Into town? Jude nodded, but Shamir pursed her lips. Elora knew that look. Shamir always wanted to make the people around her feel comfortable, even when it meant swallowing her own opinions. What is it? Elora asked. Shamir shifted on her feet. What are we going to do in town? Elora's heart squeezed. You could go back to the stop. Catch the coach to Piazza. But you won't be coming? Shamir looked between the three of them. When none of them moved, her gaze fixed on Elora. Where will you go? Tears pooled along Elora's lower eyelid. I don't know. Tears pooled along Elora's lower eyelids. I don't know. Tara gasped and hugged the wide trunk between her and the edge of the woods. Elora tucked herself against the rough bark of her own tree and peered around the periphery toward the cottage. The coach was there. The driver stepped down and opened the door. A boot appeared, then a leg, and finally the rest of a man with a gray-collared shirt who... Elora's eyes flew wide and she pulled back. Don't look. Stay hidden. Her friends froze behind the trees. How could he be here? How would he have known? They hadn't given any information to the coach driver, and even if he had followed them to the stop, how would he have known they went to the balancer's cottage? Anger flared within her. Tam said elixirs allowed members of the Order to communicate. Had he found a way to contact him? They'd given false names, done everything they could to hide their identities. She groaned internally. They should have said a different town. Did Tam know their father was the provost of Piatha? Or had he simply called town leadership? Who is it? Tara hissed. Elora gave her a look, and Tara blanched. They had to get out of here. Now. Where should we go? Jude huffed as he helped Tara down the final incline next to the stream bed. They'd hiked as far into the trees as they could without losing sight of the town. Once they found the stream, it was easy to follow it down the hill along the outskirts of Cassione. The coach still sat on the road when Elora glimpsed the cottage through the trees on the other side of the hill. Hopefully, Tam and their father were having a long chat, so she and the others would have plenty of time to devise a plan. We should find a place to hide. Wait it out? Elora panted as she stepped over a tree root. Elora, you know Father will tear this town apart until he finds us. We can't stay here. Tara's voice was weak. She needed rest. We could find a barn or abandoned farmhouse. I don't know. Somewhere he wouldn't think to look. The idea sounded flimsy even to herself. Tara was right. If he thought they were here, he wouldn't stop. Yet she was running to protect Tara, and risking her sister's health would not protect her. Think. They had the magic. Tam said the enclaves wouldn't accept them. They couldn't take off toward Aerith. Not only because they wouldn't have a place, but because they didn't have enough money. It would take too long to find a job and earn enough to request passage. Members of the Order don't pay for things. Have you noticed that? Jude asked. He grunted as he stepped down over a rock and helped Tara do the same. Elora's brow drew together. They serve the realm, so they are given what they need. It had always been that way. She'd never had to serve a member of the Order in her shop during her apprenticeship, but she'd been trained on how to handle a situation like that. If only our eyes were turned, Jude continued. Elora's frown deepened. Did he wish they could have the same benefits? It would be convenient, but impossible. Consecration only came through stewards with authority, and only after years of training within the Enclave. They wouldn't ever be able to reach that point. Yes, they knew their blood held access to the magic, yet they wouldn't be able to do anything about it because of where they were from. On top of that, they were too old and had missed their chance. Pressure built in Elora's chest, but then a thought tickled the back of her mind. What had Tam said about the steward in Cassione? Ryman. She spoke the name aloud, not sure if she remembered it right. That was the steward Tam mentioned, the one who... What was the word he used? Absconded. Left the Enclave. Jude paused at the bottom of the hill and wiped his brow with his shirt sleeve. Why would a steward leave? And why would he come to the northern... And why would he come to the northern mountains? Shamir placed her hands on her hips to catch her breath. Jude drew a deep breath, his hand still on Tara's waist to steady her. The same reason anyone comes here. To hide. Jude insisted on going in alone. Elora, Tara, and Shamir stayed hidden in the trees behind the market hall. Thank the goddess this area was heavily forested. Elora kept her eyes peeled for a coach, or a man with dark hair wearing a buckskin overcoat. They'd gotten lucky so far. Elora had no idea how Jude would ask about Ryman without inciting suspicion. People here didn't like the Order. Even if the steward had absconded, he was still one of them. Tara's grip tightened on her arm, and Tara's grip tightened on her arm, and Elora turned her head. Jude. He was walking around the building, heading into the trees on the other side, then looping back to meet them. He had a spring to his step, but Elora didn't know what she hoped that to mean. If he knew where to find the steward, they'd at least have a next step. Somewhere to hide where their father would never look. Although, Tam may have told him everything. Would he suspect they'd head for the only other person they knew of? Would he suspect they'd head for the only other person they knew of with the magic? If they arrived there safely, they'd have to walk to this man. And say what? How could they explain their situation? How could they convince the steward to use his authority for their personal benefit? And if he, by some miracle, agreed to disregard the traditions of the order, what would they do with magic flowing freely within them? They had no training. What if they couldn't control it? What if... Shamir gripped her hand. Elora jumped, but Shamir held her steady. I'll come with you, at least for now. Tears pricked Elora's eyes. Shamir, I never should have asked you to come. This is... She shook her head. You need to go home. With what happens next, we could get caught. Shamir straightened her shoulders. I can't go back and pretend I didn't know. Oh, wait. I can't go back and pretend I don't know what I know. I need something more. Understanding. Elora squeezed her hand. It might be easier to go back without it. Shamir gave a wan smile. No. Ariadne gave us magic for a reason. We have to trust that she'll help us find our way. Elora dropped her hand and folded her arms over her chest. I would love to believe that. But where was the goddess all this time when I needed her, Shamir? If I have her magic, where was she when my father... Her voice broke. Tara leaned her head on Elora's shoulder. Tara leaned her head on Elora's shoulder. It wasn't your fault, Elle. Elora swallowed hard. Maybe it was hers. Branches crackled as Jude appeared through the trees, and the two of them whirled around. I have good news and bad news. Elora held her breath, waiting for him to continue. He set down his pack and stretched his back. I know where to find Ryman. That's the good news? Shamir asked. Jude nodded, then looked at Tara. The bad news is it's a 30-minute walk south. Chapter 9. This will be chapter 10, and I believe this might be the last chapter, or the second to last. I think it's the second to last. So awesome. Okay, so this is my novella of Hidden Blood. It'll be coming out soon on my YouTube channel at Cindy Gunderson. All of my other books are there, so you can check them out right now. Tons, hours and hours of content. Okay, let's do chapter 10. Chapter 10. Tara trundled along without complaint. Though by the time they reached the cottage tucked against the cliffs off the main road, her face was ashen, and her feet dragged along the packed dirt path. Elora paused and supported her weight while Jude and Shamir knocked on the steward's door. Only a few more minutes, Tara. Then you can lie down. My head hurts, Tara whimpered. I know. Elora cupped her hand around her sister's cheek. The door to the house swung open. Elora peered into the shadows past the threshold, looking for any indication that the man inside was friendly. She couldn't see anything. She blew out a series of short breaths to get control of her racing heart. Finally, Jude turned and motioned for them to come forward. He jogged back to pick up Tara's things and his own pack that he'd left sitting at their feet. Elora masked her surprise when she was close enough to see the man standing in the doorway. He was young, maybe only 10 years older than they were.